Korea's historic run to the semifinals on home soil in 2002 a result of a team riding a wave of momentum feeding off of the home crowd? Or was there something darker, more sinister at play, uh, all the way to refereeing mistakes or intervention from FIFA, World Football's governing body? Many people believe that FIFA and the referees in that tournament favored South Korea as an attempt to help them get as far as they could go in order to expand the popularity of the sport in Asia and the marketability of the World Cup, since it was the first time that Asia had ever hosted a World Cup tournament. Personally, I was 8 years old at the time. I don't know. I don't know. I was still very young, and I sort of fell in love with the World Cup from 2002. 98 was my first World Cup, but 2002 was what really made me fall in love with it. And a lot of people want to cite video evidence from bad calls by the referees in the round of 16 match against Italy and the quarterfinal clash with Spain. And really, guys, if you go on YouTube and you look at the highlights of those two games, at the very least, some pretty bad calls were made. Spain had two perfectly good goals that were not counted because the referee had deemed that the ball had crossed the line when it had not. A lot of fouls and no calls were made against South Korea's opponents. And the whole thing really sort of stinks of intervention, of corruption. But whether or not those were results of mistakes or intentional tampering of the tournament to get South Korea to the semis, I don't think we'll ever be able to prove it 100% beyond a shadow of a doubt. I do think, like I said, at the very least, there were bad calls made by the refs. Anyone that denies that is kidding themselves. And also the whole story about the shady past of the referee in that Spain match. I think it was Spain or against Italy, I'm not sure. That Ecuadorian referee that was involved in drug trafficking. I'm not kidding, go look it up. His name is Byron Moreno. He got arrested at some airport a couple of years before the World Cup, or maybe after the World Cup, for having cocaine smuggled in an airport or something. So, I don't know, a lot of shady stuff going on. So, looking at that guy's profile and him being suspended as a referee, not having a very good record, I wouldn't be surprised. I don't have any concrete evidence that foul play was involved, but there is pretty much a good amount of evidence that South Korea was favored by the referees. And you don't have to take my word for it. Just go on YouTube and look up some of the highlights against, like I said, round of 16 against Italy and the quarterfinal match against Spain. Some even argue foul play was involved in the group stage match against Portugal. I don't know. I don't think we'll ever be able to say it. But, do your own investigation, do your own research, and come up with your own conclusions. Having said all that, I still think the South Korean team deserves credit for what they did. Because if you go back and you watch those matches in the group stages and the latter stages of the tournament, that was the best South Korean team in a generation. The way they played against really superpowers that should have blown them out of the water, Portugal, Spain, and Italy, the way they played against them, they were on their level. It was very exciting football, very fast-paced, very counterattacking, counterintuitive football. So, regardless of whether or not FIFA favored them, those matches, guys, were still pretty close. If you take away the refereeing decisions, South Korea held their own against the Spaniards and the Italians and the Portuguese. So those games could have gone either way. I think really the only game that maybe you could make an argument for that South Korea had no business winning at all, that they were definitely going to be eliminated, if not for bad calls by the ref, was that Spain match in the quarterfinals. Spain should have won that game probably 2-0 from those disallowed goals. And maybe Italy should have beaten them too, if not for the poor referee calls. I'm just saying Spain was a match where they were clearly outclassed. They clearly were not the better opponent. Spain was. Um, and yeah, Spain really should have gotten to the semifinals that year. Um, but it's sort of like a poetic justice if you think about it, that Italy and Spain, who feel they were both wronged and screwed over in that tournament, both went on to win the next two World Cups. So maybe that's just the universe setting things right in the end, or something at play. I don't know. I do think a lot of the circumstances leading up to South Korea getting to the semifinals was shady. Like I said, they probably should not have gotten that far. At the same time, I don't think it was entirely out of their hands. I do think that the way they performed on the field, I do think that was the best South Korean team in a very long time. And who knows? Maybe without those refereeing decisions, they might have gotten where they ended up anyway. Um, I don't know. We'll never know. But it is a subject for debate, and I want to hear your guys' comments below. Do you think that South Korea getting to the semifinals was a result of FIFA intervening? If so, why? Why do you think FIFA would do it? And or do you think South Korea got there on their own and it's just a bunch of sour grapes from the defeated opponent? Or do you think they were just bad refereeing mistakes? It could be any of those three. It doesn't necessarily have to be they got there on their own or it was corruption. It could be the answer could be somewhere in the middle. Who knows? I don't know. Um, Overall, I lean towards the middle answer that there are some pretty bad calls that were probably given to them because home teams in tournaments, and this is nothing unique to South Korea in 2002, home team in tournaments usually get the benefit of the doubt when calls are very close. So it could be the referees were favoring South Korea, but not because they were paid beforehand to do it. It could just be because of pressure to just give the home nation a break or something. I don't know. I'd like to think that's what it was. I hope it was not due to FIFA saying no. We're getting at least one of these host nations, South Korea or Japan, far into the knockouts because we want to put more money into Asia and make it more popular. That would be really, really bad, because that's not what FIFA is supposed to do. It's not what the sport is supposed to be about. It's that no, no. So yeah, see you guys in my next video. Until then, peace out.